Captain Jiho stared at the strange signal on his screen. The Earth Defense Force had been watching space for years, but nothing like this had ever appeared before. The signal was too organized to be natural, too complex to be from any human ship. "Sir, we're getting something big," said Minho from his seat at the communications desk. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "It's not from Earth, not from anywhere we know." Jiho felt his heart beat faster. This was what every person on Earth had wondered about for decades. Were they alone in the universe? Today, they got their answer. "Can you understand what they're saying?" Jiho asked. Minho shook his head. "It's like nothing I've heard before. But the computer is working on it. Give me a few minutes." High above Earth, massive ships appeared out of nowhere. They were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. The alien fleet had 2,000 ships, each one the size of a city. They moved in perfect formation like a deadly dance in space. On the largest alien ship, Commander Vextar looked down at the small blue planet below. His skin was gray and rough, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed red in the dark. He had conquered 12 worlds before this one. Earth would be easy. "Look, at this pathetic world," Vextar said to his officers. "They fight each other instead of working together. Their technology is weak. Their ships are tiny. This will be over in one day." The alien commander opened a channel to broadcast to the entire planet. His voice was cold and harsh, like metal scraping against stone. Back on Earth, Minho's computers finally cracked the alien language. The translation came through the speakers, and everyone in the command center went silent. "People of Earth, I am Commander Vextar of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world now belongs to us. You are primitive creatures who know only war and destruction. We will bring order to your chaos. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Lay down your weapons, stop your ships, accept your new masters. If you resist, we will destroy your cities one by one until you understand your place." Jiho felt his blood turn cold. These aliens weren't here to make friends. They wanted to make humans into slaves. "Sir," Minho said quietly, "they're broadcasting this message to every country on Earth. Everyone is hearing this right now." Within minutes, Jiho's communication board lit up with calls from military leaders around the world. The President of the United States was calling. The Prime Minister of Japan wanted to talk. Leaders from Russia, China, India, and dozens of other countries were all trying to reach the Earth Defense Force. For the first time in human history, the world's nations stopped fighting each other. Every country that had been enemies just hours before now faced the same terrible truth. Earth was under attack by beings from another world. Soman, the Secretary of Defense, called an emergency meeting in the secure bunker beneath the Pentagon. Leaders from every major nation appeared on screens around the room. For once, nobody was arguing about borders or trade or old wars. They had bigger problems now. "We have less than 3 days," Somin said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Our combined fleets have about 200 ships. The aliens have 10 times that number. Our weapons are designed to fight other humans, not aliens with technology we don't understand." The president of Brazil spoke first. "What do we know about their capabilities?" Admiral Hyun, who commanded the largest human fleet, pulled up data on his screen. "They appeared without warning, which means they have faster-than-light travel. Our best ships take months to reach Mars. They crossed space between stars. Their ships are massive, but we don't know what weapons they carry. Do we fight or surrender?" asked the Chancellor of Germany. The room went quiet. Everyone knew that surrender meant the end of human freedom. But fighting seemed impossible against such powerful enemies. Salman looked around the room at faces on screens from around the world. "My grandfather fought in World War III. He told me that humans always fight hardest when someone tries to take away their freedom. I say we fight." One by one, every leader agreed. Human nations that had been ready to go to war with each other just days before now stood together against a common enemy. Admiral Hyon began organizing the defense. Every ship that could fly was called into service. Military vessels, private ships, even old cargo haulers were fitted with weapons. It wasn't much, but it was everything humanity had. Jiho found himself promoted to fleet captain overnight. His ship, the Soul, would lead a squadron of 12 vessels. Most of his crew had never been in real combat before. They were scared, but they were ready to fight. On the alien flagship, Commander Vextar watched human ships gathering above Earth. He laughed at what he saw. Their largest ships were smaller than his smallest fighters. Their weapons looked like toys compared to his fleet's power. "Should we attack now?" asked his second-in-command. "No," Vextar said. "Let them gather their little fleet. When we destroy them all at once, the planet will lose hope completely. It will make the conquest easier." But as the alien commander watched the human ships move into formation, something surprised him. These humans weren't running away. They weren't begging for mercy. They were preparing to fight a battle they couldn't possibly win. On Earth, factories worked day and night to build more weapons and ships. People who had never worked together before shared technology and resources. Scientists from different countries combined their knowledge to understand alien technology from intercepted signals. Nari, one of Earth's best engineers, studied every piece of data they could gather about the alien ships. She worked without sleep, trying to find any weakness that might give humans a chance. "Their ships are powerful," she told Admiral Hyon, "but they're also huge. Big ships move slowly. Our smaller ships might be faster." It wasn't much hope, but it was something. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Captain Jiho stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the alien fleet hanging in space like dark clouds. His crew was ready. The human fleet was ready. Earth was ready. The aliens had called humans primitive. They thought this would be easy. Soon they would learn that humans were much more dangerous than they looked. The first shots of the war came without warning. Commander Vexitar's fleet opened fire on the human ships just as the 72-hour deadline ended. Bright beams of energy tore through space, striking human vessels with devastating force. Captain Jiho watched in horror as 3 ships in his squadron exploded in balls of fire. The alien weapons were more powerful than anything humans had ever seen. His own ship shook as enemy fire hit their shields. "Shields at 60%, shouted Yunho from his tactical station. "We can't take many more hits like that." The Soul rolled hard to the right as Jiho tried to avoid another blast. Around him, human ships scattered like leaves in a storm. The aliens had better weapons, better shields, and better ships. This was exactly what everyone had feared. "All ships, this is Admiral Hyon," came the voice over the radio. "Use the Chen formation. Small groups hit and run. Don't try to fight them head-to-head." But even the hit-and-run attacks weren't working well. Human weapons barely scratched the alien ships. The enemy shields absorbed most of the damage, and what got through wasn't enough to seriously hurt them. On the alien flagship, Commander Vextar smiled as he watched human ships explode. This was going exactly as he had planned. In a few more hours, the human fleet would be destroyed, and Earth would surrender. "Sir," said his weapons officer, "should we use the plasma cannons? We could end this battle right now." Vextar shook his head. "No need to waste our best weapons on these primitives. Save the plasma cannons for real enemies." That decision would be the biggest mistake of his life. Captain Jiho's ship was damaged but still fighting. Half his crew was injured, but they kept working. Minho was monitoring alien communications, trying to learn anything that might help. "Captain," Minho called out, "I'm hearing something strange from their ships. They keep talking about conserving power and saving their heavy weapons. It's like they're not fighting at full strength." Jiho frowned. Why would the aliens hold back when they could end the battle quickly? Unless... Maybe they can't use their best weapons, Jiho said. Maybe they're not as strong as they want us to think. Down in the engine room, Nari was working desperately to keep the ship running. But she was also doing something else. Every time they got close to an alien ship, she scanned it with every sensor they had. She was learning. The alien ships have a weak spot, she announced over the ship's radio. Their shield generators are on the outside of their hulls. If we can hit them just right, we might be able to take down their shields. It was a small hope, but Jiho decided to try it. He flew, the Soul straight at an alien cruiser, ignoring the enemy fire that hammered his ship. At the last second, he fired everything he had at a small tower on the alien ship's hull. The alien shields flickered and went down. For just a few seconds, the enemy ship was defenseless. "All ships target the shield generators," Jiho broadcast. "They look like towers on the ship's hull." Other human captains heard the message and began targeting the shield generators. It was dangerous work. They had to get very close to the alien ships, and many human vessels were destroyed trying. But slowly, some of the attacks worked. The first alien ship to be destroyed was a destroyer that lost its shields to a coordinated attack by 5 human fighters. When its shields went down, the human ships poured fire into it until it exploded. Commander Vextar couldn't believe what he was seeing. These primitive humans had figured out his ship's weakness in the middle of a battle. No other species had ever done that so quickly. "Use the plasma cannons," he ordered. "Destroy them all." But his weapons officer looked nervous. "Sir, we only brought enough plasma charges for one major battle. If we use them all now and the humans have reinforcements..." Vextar realized his problem. He had been sent to conquer a primitive world, so he hadn't brought his best equipment, or his most experienced crews. This was supposed to be an easy mission for new recruits and older ships. The battle continued for 6 hours. The humans lost 60 ships, but they destroyed 8 alien vessels and damaged dozens more. More importantly, they learned how to fight. Nari had been studying the wreckage of destroyed alien ships. Every piece of technology she could analyze gave her new ideas. She began modifying human weapons to work better against alien shields. "We can adapt their technology to ours," she told Admiral Hyon over a secure channel. "Give me a few days, and I can make our weapons twice as effective." Yunho had been studying alien tactics and found patterns in how they moved their ships. "They're very organized, but they don't adapt quickly. If we change our tactics, it takes them a long time to respond." The battle ended when both sides pulled, back to repair damage and tend to their wounded. The humans had lost more ships, but they were learning fast. Too fast for the aliens' comfort. Commander Vextar looked at the battle reports and felt worried for the first time. His fleet was supposed to crush the humans easily, but they had fought harder and smarter than any enemy he had faced before. "Sir," said his intelligence officer, "the humans are broadcasting messages to their planet. They're calling this battle a victory." Vexatar was confused. "How can they call this a victory? They lost 3 times as many ships as we did. They're saying they proved that alien ships can be destroyed. They're saying they learned how to fight us. Their planet is celebrating." That night, while both fleets repaired their damage, Commander Vextar made a decision that would change everything. He sent a message back to the Galactic Hegemony. "This is Commander Vextar requesting immediate reinforcements. Human resistance is stronger than intelligence reports indicated. They adapt quickly to our tactics and technology. Recommend sending the 3rd Fleet to ensure quick victory." The message would take 3 days to reach Hegemony space and another week for reinforcements to arrive. Vextar thought he could handle the humans until then. On Earth, people celebrated the first battle as a victory even though they had lost more ships. The important thing was that alien ships could be destroyed. The enemy wasn't invincible. Captain Jiho stood on his repaired bridge and looked at the alien fleet in the distance. His ship had new weapons designed by Nari's team. His crew had learned how to fight aliens. They were no longer the same people who had faced the enemy a week ago. "Sir," Minho said, "I'm intercepting alien messages. They're worried about us. They're calling for help." Jiho smiled grimly. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought humans would be easy to defeat. They thought Earth would surrender after one battle. Instead, they had taught humanity how to fight them, and humans were very fast learners. The real war was just beginning. The message from the galactic hegemony arrived like thunder in space. War Marshal Kethmore read Commander Vextar's request for help and couldn't believe what he was seeing. A primitive world was giving trouble to an entire patrol fleet. Kethmore was a veteran of 23 planetary conquests. He had crushed rebellions on 4 different worlds. His third fleet had 10,000 ships, including heavy cruisers and battle platforms that could destroy entire cities with one shot. Prepare the fleet for immediate departure, he ordered his staff. We'll show these humans what real war looks like. But Kethmore was making the same mistake as Vextar. He thought humans were just another primitive species. He had no idea what Earth had become in the 10 days since the first battle. On Earth, everything had changed. The attack had united humanity like nothing in history. Countries that had been enemies for centuries now shared technology and resources. Every factory on the planet was building weapons or ships. Every scientist was working on new ways to fight the aliens. Soman stood in the command center beneath Washington, watching reports from around the world. "Production is up 400%, she announced to the room full of military leaders. "We're building ships faster than we ever thought possible." Admiral Hyon looked at the numbers on his screen. "We'll have 500 ships ready when the reinforcements arrive, but intelligence says they're bringing 10,000. "Then we need to be smarter," said Nari from her workstation. She had been awake for 3 days straight, designing new weapons and ship modifications. "We can't win by fighting them the same way they fight each other." Nari had made incredible progress studying alien technology. Human ships now had hybrid weapons that combined human engineering with alien power sources. The new ships were faster and hit harder than anything in the original fleet. Captain Jiho's ship, the Soul, was one of the first to get the new upgrades. His weapons could now punch through alien shields with half the hits they needed before. His shields could absorb more damage. Most importantly, his ship was now twice as fast as before. "The aliens fight like they're in a parade," Yunho observed during a strategy meeting. "Perfect formations, predictable movements. They expect their enemies to do the same thing." "But we won't," Jiho added. "We'll fight like humans have always fought. Dirty, unpredictable, and with everything we have." The plan they developed was unlike anything in galactic military history. Instead of meeting the alien fleet in open battle, they would turn the entire solar system into a trap. Minho had been studying alien psychology through their intercepted communications. "They're arrogant," he reported. "They think they're superior to every other species. They can't imagine that primitives like us could outthink them." "Good," said Admiral Hyon. "Let them think that. We'll use their arrogance against them." Luna Base became the center of human military production. The moon's low gravity made it easy to build massive ships and weapons platforms. Asteroid mining stations were converted into hidden weapons platforms. Even civilian ships were fitted with weapons and given military crews. Da-Hyun had become one of Earth's best pilots during the first battle. Now she led a squadron of 100 fighters, all equipped with the new hybrid technology. Her ships could outrun anything the aliens had and hit much harder than their size suggested. "We're not trying to win fair fights," she told her pilots. "We're trying to make sure the aliens never get a fair fight." The human strategy was simple in concept but complex in execution. They would let the alien fleet enter the solar system, then attack from every direction at once. Hidden weapons platforms would fire from asteroids. Fast attack ships would hit and run from the outer planets. The main fleet would strike when the aliens were confused and scattered. When War Marshal Kethmore's fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system, he expected to find a broken world begging for mercy. Instead, he found something that made no sense. "Where are their ships?" he asked his intelligence officer. "We're detecting some vessels near the inner planets, but not many." Maybe they're hiding behind their world. Kethmore smiled. Cowards. They know they can't fight us, so they're hiding. This will be easier than I thought. The alien fleet moved toward Earth in perfect formation. 10,000 ships in precise geometric patterns, advancing like a steel wall through space. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. But as they passed the orbit of Jupiter, the first surprise hit them. Weapons platforms hidden in the asteroids opened fire. Massive railguns that had been built into the largest rocks launched projectiles at incredible speed. The aliens weren't expecting attacks from rocks. Several ships were destroyed before they could react. More were damaged by the unexpected assault. "What was that?" Kethmore demanded. Before his officers could answer, the second wave of attacks began. Dahyun's fighter squadrons came screaming out of Jupiter's atmosphere, where they had been hiding in the gas giant storms. Their new weapons tore into the alien formation from an angle no one expected. "They're in the gas giant," an alien officer shouted. "How is that possible?" Humans had learned to use the solar system itself as a weapon. They hid in places aliens thought were impossible to use. They attacked from directions that made no tactical sense. They fought like no civilized species would ever fight. The alien formation began to break up as ships moved to respond to attacks from multiple directions. That's when Admiral Hyan's main fleet struck from behind Mars. "All ships, attack pattern. Delta," Hyun ordered. "Hit them while they're confused." The human fleet had been waiting behind Mars for days. Now they accelerated to full speed, their new engines pushing them faster than the aliens thought possible. Captain Jiho led the charge in the Soul, his hybrid weapons ready to prove what human engineering could do. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Humans didn't fight in formations or follow traditional tactics. They swarmed like angry insects, attacking from every angle, using the planets and asteroids as cover. Nari's weapons proved their worth as human ships punched holes in alien formations. Yunho's tactical analysis helped human captains predict alien movements. Minho's communication intercepts gave early warning of alien plans. War Marshal Kethmore watched his perfect fleet get torn apart by an enemy that fought without honor or proper tactics. "These humans fight like animals," he said in disgust. "Should we retreat?" asked his second-in-command. Retreat? From primitives? Kethmore's pride wouldn't let him consider it. "Signal the dreadnoughts. Use the planet-killer weapons." But even as he gave the order, Kethmore knew something was wrong. These humans weren't fighting like any primitive species he had ever encountered. They were fighting like something far more dangerous, something that had evolved to be the ultimate predators. The battle raged for 12 hours, and when it was over, both fleets were badly damaged. The humans had lost 200 ships, but the aliens had lost over 1,000. More importantly, the alien formation was broken, their perfect tactics useless against human unpredictability. As his damaged fleet regrouped at the edge of the solar system, War Marshal Kethmore made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. He sent an emergency message to the Hegemony High Command. "Request immediate deployment of First Fleet and Dreadnought units. Human military capability severely underestimated. They fight with tactics unknown to galactic warfare. Recommend maximum force authorization." In space around Earth, Captain Jiho looked at his battle-damaged ship and smiled. They had faced 10 times their number and survived. More than survived, they had won. The aliens were calling for bigger guns, but they still didn't understand what they were really fighting. They weren't fighting a primitive world. They were fighting humanity. And humanity was just getting started. The Third Fleet's defeat sent shockwaves through the galactic hegemony. For the first time in 300 years, a primitive world had not only resisted conquest, but had actually won a major battle. Emergency sessions were called on every hegemony world. Supreme Admiral Vorthak read the battle reports with growing disbelief. War Marshal Kethmore was known for his careful tactics and overwhelming victories. If he was asking for the First Fleet, something was seriously wrong. 50,000 ships, Vorthak said to his staff. We're sending 50,000 ships to conquer one primitive world. This had better be worth it. But the Supreme Admiral was making the same mistake as everyone before him. He thought numbers would solve the problem. He didn't understand that the humans had been studying alien psychology for months now, learning how they thought, how they fought, and most importantly, how they could be beaten. On Earth, the victory against the Third Fleet had done more than just destroy enemy ships. It had proven to humanity that they could win. Not just survive, but actually win against superior technology and numbers. Soman stood before the United Earth Council, looking at representatives from every nation on the planet. The aliens are sending their main fleet, 50,000 ships, but we're not the same species that they first attacked. We've learned, we've adapted, and we're going to show them what happens when you try to enslave humanity. The months between. Battles had transformed Earth into something unprecedented in galactic history. Every human had become part of the war effort. Children built components in schools. Scientists worked around the clock in underground laboratories. Farmers grew food for the fleets. Everyone had a job, and everyone knew their survival depended on doing it well. Nari's engineering teams had made breakthroughs that amazed even her. They had learned to build ships that were part human technology and part captured alien systems. The new vessels were smaller than alien dreadnoughts, but faster and more maneuverable than anything in space. We're not trying to build better ships than they have, she explained to Admiral Hyon. We're building ships that fight the way humans fight, fast, smart, and mean. Captain Jiho now commanded a squadron of 20 ships, all with the new hybrid technology. His flagship, the Soul, had been completely rebuilt with weapons that could punch through any alien shield and engines that could outrun pursuing fleets. Minho had become Earth's leading expert on alien psychology. His analysis of captured communications had revealed something disturbing about the galactic hegemony. They weren't just conquerors. They were slavers who had never faced a species that refused to be enslaved. They've been doing this for centuries, Minho reported to the command staff. They conquer a world, enslave the population, strip the planet of resources, then move on. But they've never faced a species that gets stronger during the fighting. Yunho had studied every battle humanity had fought and developed new tactics that took advantage of human strengths. Aliens fight like they're playing a game with rules, but war isn't a game, it's survival. And humans have been surviving longer than any species in the galaxy. The plan for defending against the First Fleet was more ambitious than anything humans had ever attempted. They would turn the entire solar system into a fortress, with hidden weapons on every planet and moon. But more than that, they would take the fight to the aliens before they could organize their attack. Da-Hyun now led a fleet of 2,000 fighters, each one piloted by someone who had learned to fight in the previous battles. Her ships could hide in gas-giant atmospheres behind asteroid fields or even in the shadow of planets. When they attacked, it would be from directions the aliens never expected. We're not going to wait for them to come to us, she told her. Pilots. We're going to hunt them down and hit them before they know we're there. When the First Fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system, Supreme Admiral Vorthak expected to find the wreckage of the Third Fleet and a broken human defense. Instead, he found something that made no sense to his military mind. The solar system appeared to be empty. No fleets were waiting to defend Earth. No massive battles platforms guarded the approaches to the planet. It looked like the humans had simply given up. Where are they? Vorthak asked his intelligence officers. We're detecting some activity around the inner planets, but nothing that suggests a major fleet. Maybe they're hiding behind their world. Again. Vorthak wasn't as confident as his predecessors had been. The reports from the Third Fleet had been disturbing. These humans fought without honor, without proper tactics, without following any of the accepted rules of galactic warfare. Advance carefully, he ordered. Keep the fleet in tight formation. Watch for ambushes. But as the alien fleet moved deeper into the solar system, the attacks began. Not from one direction or even several directions, but from everywhere at once. Weapons. Platforms hidden in asteroids opened fire. Fighter squadrons emerged from behind planets. Ships that had been disguised as space debris suddenly came to life and began shooting. The humans had turned the entire solar system into a trap. Admiral Hyan watched the battle from his command ship hidden behind Earth's moon. All units, execute wolfpack tactics. Hit and run. Don't give them a target to shoot back at. The human. Strategy was unlike anything in military history. Instead of fighting one big battle, they fought thousands of small ones. Every alien ship found itself under attack from multiple directions by enemies that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Captain Jiho led his squadron in an attack on the alien command ship. His 20 vessels came screaming out of the shadow of Mars, their weapons fully charged and ready. They hit the massive dreadnought from below, punching holes in its armor before disappearing back into space. "Target their command structures," Jiho ordered his captains. "Make it hard for them to coordinate their attacks." Nari's weapons proved their worth as human ships destroyed alien vessels that should have been invulnerable. The new technology allowed small human ships to damage enemies 10 times their size. But the humans had developed something even more dangerous than new weapons. They had developed new ways of thinking about war. Minho's psychological warfare began to show results, as human ships broadcast messages designed to demoralize alien crews. They transmitted images of previous human victories, recordings of alien ships being destroyed, and most effectively, recordings of alien officers admitting that they couldn't understand how to fight humans. "Your commanders sent you here to die," the human broadcasts said in perfect alien languages. "They don't understand what you're fighting. They think numbers will save you. But humans don't fight with numbers. We fight with our minds." The psychological attacks worked better than anyone had expected. Alien crews began making mistakes, second-guessing their orders, and in some cases, retreating without permission from their commanders. Yunho coordinated attacks that seemed impossible to alien military thinking. Human ships would attack in one area, draw alien reinforcements, then disappear, while other human forces attacked somewhere completely different. The aliens couldn't predict where the next strike would come from. Supreme Admiral Vorthak watched his perfectly organized fleet get torn apart by an enemy that refused to fight properly. Everywhere he sent ships, the humans were ready for them. Every time he tried to organize a counterattack, the humans had already moved somewhere else. "They're not fighting like any species in our database," his tactical officer reported. "They don't follow standard military doctrine. They attack when they should retreat, retreat when they should attack, and coordinate their forces in ways that make no logical sense." "But we're still winning," Vorthak said desperately. "We have more ships, better weapons, superior technology." "Sir," his intelligence officer said quietly, "we've lost 12,000 ships in 6 hours. At this rate, we'll lose the entire fleet before we can reach their planet." Vorthak stared at the battle display and realized the terrible truth. These humans weren't just fighting for their freedom. They were fighting for something else entirely. They were fighting like predators who had been challenged in their own territory, and they were winning. As alien ships began retreating to regroup, Captain Jiho's voice came over human communication channels. "All ships, pursue the fleeing enemy. Don't let them escape to regroup. This is our chance to end this war." The tide had turned. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species was defeating the hegemony's finest fleet, and the aliens were beginning to understand that they hadn't attacked a defenseless world. They had woken something that should have been left alone. The defeat of the First Fleet changed everything in the galaxy. For 300 years, the galactic hegemony had been the undisputed rulers of known space. Now, for the first time, they had been not just defeated, but completely routed by a species they had considered primitive. Supreme Admiral Vorthak's retreat sent panic through every hegemony world. Emergency sessions were called. Military leaders demanded explanations. Some worlds began to wonder if they needed the hegemony's protection at all. But Earth was no longer content to simply defend itself. The humans had learned something important. During the battles, they were very good at war, better than species with thousands of years more experience. And now they were angry. Admiral Hyon stood before the United Earth Council with a proposal that would have seemed insane just months before. "We're not going to wait for them to come back," he said. "We're going to take the war to them." Somin looked around the room at faces that had grown hard during the long fight. The representatives from every nation on Earth had changed. They had seen their world attacked, their people killed, their freedom threatened. Now they wanted justice. "What are you suggesting?" asked the president of the European Federation. "We build a fleet," Hyon said simply. "Not just to defend Earth, but to liberate every world the hegemony has enslaved. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you try to conquer humanity." The decision was unanimous. Earth would go to war. The next 6 months saw the greatest military buildup in human history. Every shipyard worked around the clock. Every factory built weapons or ship components. The moon became a massive military base. Mars was converted into a ship construction facility. Even the asteroids were mined to build humanity's first interstellar. Warfleet Nari's engineering teams created ships that combined human innovation with captured alien technology. The new vessels were unlike anything in the galaxy, fast, deadly, and designed to fight the way humans fought. Captain Jiho now commanded a battle group of 200 ships. The Soul had been rebuilt again, now equipped with weapons that could destroy ships 10 times its size. More importantly, it carried something the aliens had never seen before: human determination. Minho had become Earth's expert on galactic politics. His analysis of intercepted communications revealed that the hegemony ruled through fear, not loyalty. Many worlds under their control were ready to rebel if they had help. "There are resistance movements on dozens of worlds," he reported to the command staff. "They're just waiting for someone to prove that the hegemony can be beaten. We've already done that. Now we need to help them do it too." Yunho had studied the tactical information gathered from the battles and identified the hegemony's greatest weakness: they couldn't adapt. They had conquered so many worlds using the same tactics that they couldn't imagine any other way to fight. "They expect their enemies to surrender when faced with superior numbers," he explained. "When we don't surrender, they don't know what to do. We can use that against them on every world they control." Dahyun now led the largest fighter force in human history. Her pilots had learned to fight in the vacuum of space, in planetary atmospheres, and even in the dangerous radiation fields around gas giants. They could go anywhere and fight anyone. "We're not just soldiers anymore," she told her squadron leaders. "We're the galaxy's liberators, and we're going to show every enslaved species that freedom is possible." When Earth's liberation fleet departed for its first target, it was the largest human military force ever assembled. 5,000 ships carrying the best weapons and the most experienced crews humanity had ever produced. Their first target was Kepler Station, a hegemony supply base that supported 3 conquered worlds. The station was supposed to be impregnable, protected by orbital defenses and a garrison fleet. The humans arrived without warning and attacked immediately. They didn't demand surrender or try to negotiate. They simply began destroying everything that belonged to the hegemony. The battle was over in 4 hours. The humans captured the station, freed the enslaved workers, and sent a message to every world in the sector. "Earth remembers every species that was enslaved. We're coming to set things right." Word of the liberation spread faster than the hegemony could suppress it. On world after world, resistance movements began to stir. Species that had been slaves for generations began to hope again. The hegemony's response was swift and brutal. They sent punishment fleets to worlds that showed signs of rebellion. They increased security on their remaining bases. They tried to hunt down the human fleet and destroy it. But hunting humans proved harder than the hegemony expected. The Liberation Fleet didn't fight like a traditional military force. They struck where they were least expected, freed entire worlds before reinforcements could arrive, and disappeared before the hegemony could organize a response. Admiral Hyan coordinated the campaign from his flagship, using tactics that no galactic military academy taught. "We're not trying to conquer territory," he explained to his captains. "We're trying to destroy their ability to hold territory." Captain Jiho led the attack on the hegemony fortress world of Rigel Prime. The planet was supposed to be impossible to assault, protected by massive orbital platforms and a fleet of 10,000 ships. The humans attacked during a solar storm that disrupted alien sensors. They came from the direction of the system's sun, using its radiation to hide their approach. When they struck, it was with everything they had. "All ships, target their orbital defenses," Jiho ordered. "Make them pay for every world they've enslaved." The battle for Rigel Prime lasted 3 days and ended with the complete destruction of the hegemony forces. More importantly, it freed 12 million enslaved beings from 15 different species. Nari's weapons performed beyond all expectations. Human ships armed with hybrid technology proved they could defeat any enemy, no matter how powerful or numerous. Minho's psychological warfare reached new levels of effectiveness. Human broadcasts to hegemony worlds explained exactly what would happen to slavers and tyrants when the Liberation Fleet arrived. Surrender was possible, but only for those who freed their slaves immediately. As victory followed victory, something remarkable happened. Other species began joining the human fleet. Former slaves volunteered to fight alongside their liberators. Entire worlds declared independence and offered to help the war effort. The Galactic Council, which had been neutral in the conflict, began to reconsider their position. A delegation arrived at Earth requesting an alliance with the new power that was reshaping the galaxy. "We didn't start this war," Soman told the alien diplomats, "but we're going to finish it. The age of galactic empires built on slavery is over." The final battle came when the human fleet reached the hegemony capital world. The planet was defended by everything the aliens had left: 500,000 ships, orbital battle stations, and planetary defense systems that could destroy entire fleets. Supreme Admiral Vorthak, who had somehow survived the disaster at Earth, commanded the defense. He had spent months studying human tactics, trying to understand how to fight them. "This time will be different," he told his officers. "We know what they are now. We know how they fight. We can beat them." But Vorthak still didn't understand what he was fighting. The humans who arrived at the hegemony capital weren't the same species that had first been attacked months before. They had evolved during the war, becoming something the galaxy had never seen. They were apex predators who had finally decided to hunt. The battle lasted 1 week and ended with the complete collapse of the galactic hegemony. Their fleet was destroyed, their government surrendered, and their enslaved populations were freed. Captain Jiho stood on the Bridge of the Soul, looking down at the former hegemony capital as human ships landed to begin the liberation. Around him, the largest fleet in galactic history waited for new orders. "Sir," Minho said from his communications station, "we're receiving surrender requests from hegemony commanders throughout the galaxy. They want to negotiate terms." Jiho smiled grimly. "Tell them the terms are simple. Free every slave, dismantle every weapon, and stay out of our way while we rebuild what they destroyed." Admiral Hyan's voice came over the fleet communications. "All ships, this is Admiral Hyan. The war is over. The hegemony has fallen. But our work is just beginning. There are still enslaved worlds to liberate, civilizations to rebuild, and justice to deliver. We came to the stars to defend our freedom. Now we stay to ensure everyone's freedom." As human, ships spread throughout the galaxy, carrying the message of liberation to every world. The former slaves of 100 species learned something wonderful. The age of empires was over. The apex predators had awakened, and they fought not for conquest, but for freedom. Earth had called for reinforcements against alien invaders. Instead, the galaxy got something it had never seen before. A species that made war not to enslave others, but to set them free. The real beasts had finally shown up, and they were humanity.